how my twin flame helped me create an extraordinary life. I maybe have some unconventional views on twin flames, and do I believe that they are a very sacred part of some of our journeys? Absolutely, I do. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with a twin flame. I met my twin flame in my mid-20s, and it was a relationship that spanned almost 2 decades. There were the classic complications of runner-chaser dynamic, each of us playing those roles. I was actually the first one to be the runner. There was an age difference, there was religious aspects to it. Now, when I say I ran, I really mean it. So I was living in the UK at the time, and I went and I moved to Canada. I was very much guided actually by my ancestors to move to Canada, but in doing so, I knew that that was going to put a real complication in our relationship, and I wanted to sever it at that time. However, anyone who understands a twin flame dynamic, you know that there is also this magnetism between the both of you, and over decades I would feel that pull, that magnetism, and I knew that there was an unfinished story between us. However, within those years I was not able to accomplish that because I then went on to enter a different relationship. And that particular relationship was very difficult, but it did stop me from running. It made me look inwards, and it made me have to look directly at any issues and resolve them. It was a relationship that I could not run from. In 2010, that particular relationship came to an end, and shortly after it coming to an end, my twin flame from the UK started to connect with me. They would write to me on Facebook, and soon we were planning that we would meet up again. There were a couple of years where I would travel back to the UK and I would spend time with them, and the reconnection was magnificent. It felt magnetic, it felt beautiful, but soon the repeated patterns of triggers would come to the surface. Now, in the years that we had been apart, I had very much looked at many of my triggers and had realized that I was the common denominator in a lot of the issues, and had made a conscious decision that I was not going to repeat those cycles. However, my twin flame had not evolved at the same pace. They were still holding on to past resentments and past triggers from our relationship. Of course, I had been the runner. I had left them, I had abandoned them, and they were still very much feeling this. And then they were the next one to be the runner. I waited for them. I waited for them for years. And that's when I went into my high priestess era that I spoke to of yesterday. Everything that I'd been taught about twin flames, that they were the highest form of union. I knew it was sacred. I knew it was special. I knew that there was a spiritual awakening that I had received by being in union with this person. And even though we were not in any communication, I could feel them. I could feel when they thought about me. I could feel what they were thinking about me. I could feel when they were wanting to reach out to me. Telepathically and empathically, we were totally connected, even at that massive distance. A few years turned into over 7 years of no contact. Nothing. Zilch. But like I had mentioned in my video yesterday, by that point I had reached a place where I was so incredibly happy on my own. There was a sense of peace that I had never experienced before, and a self-love that I had not experienced before. Spirit told me that I had reached a very pivotal time in my evolution where I had accomplished all that I could accomplish as a single person on a spiritual level, and that I was going to be invited into a relationship with somebody that would help me to assist furthering my evolution. And Spirit kept telling me that this person was going to be my twin soul, a word that I'd never heard of before. And for those of you that heard my story the other day, that's when Stephen came into my life. Someone who is more like me than I am in the most beautiful of ways. Someone that inspires me. Someone that lives in my childhood home and has 2 children the same ages as my oldest 2 children, where we've lived almost parallel type lives. And what I've learned, although it might be a very unpopular opinion, is that my twin flame, beautiful, beautiful connection in so many ways, one that I will always be grateful for, but they were the mirror. They were the one that prepared me to meet my twin soul. And I know many will probably say, well, then that person wasn't really your twin flame. That person was a false twin flame. That's not the case. I know what I know. That person was my twin flame, is my twin flame. They are the flame that inspired me to become a much better version of myself, to help me to go on this spiritual evolution and awakening. They challenged all of my beliefs. They brought up all of my fears and insecurities. And rather than me getting stuck repeatedly on the same cycles over and over again where nothing was healed, I chose to actually look at those triggers and work on them and work on my self-concept, my mindset, my energy. And that brought me into a timeline where I was able to connect with my twin soul, my embodied complement, the highest version of myself in another physical form. This is someone who activates my peace, they activate my purpose, they activate my mission. They are so inspiring to me. So I see a twin flame as someone who is there to activate you, to show you your wounding, your triggers, and bring them to the surface for you to heal. They make you question everything. And many times we get stuck in this loop because we've been told that that's who we're meant to be with. That's the highest form of person that we can be with. And I can only talk from my own perspective, so you must always make your own choice around what your soul connection and contracts are. But for me, this experience has shown me that they're here to prepare you for something more. And as a PS or side note, guess who made contact not long after me meeting Stephen? You guessed it. So when I give you readings and I tell you that your person's always going to come back and that you get to make a choice, I really mean it.